I woke up on a normal Tuesday, expecting another ordinary day at work. By sunset, the job I'd held for nearly 15 years was gone. As a single mother with 2 children depending on me, I felt my entire future unraveling in a matter of hours. What happened next taught me that sometimes God shows up when every plan we've built suddenly falls apart.
Welcome back to God Showed Up Stories. Life can change faster than we ever imagine. One phone call, one diagnosis, one accident, one unexpected conversation, or one ordinary workday that suddenly becomes anything but ordinary. Many people know what it feels like to have carefully built a life, only to watch part of it disappear without warning. A job, a relationship, a dream, a sense of security. The things we depend on can sometimes feel permanent until the moment they aren't. And when that happens, fear often arrives before hope does. Questions begin filling our minds. What happens next? How will I make it through this? What if everything falls apart? Maybe you've faced a season like that yourself. A season where the future felt uncertain and the answers seemed impossible to find. If so, this story is for you. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who may need encouragement. And comment below. God is still making a way. Never forget this. Sometimes the end of one chapter becomes the beginning of something we never would have discovered otherwise. All right, let's get into the story.
The morning started like every other Tuesday. I woke up before sunrise, packed lunches, got the kids ready for school, answered a few emails while drinking my coffee. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt different. If someone had told me that by the end of the day my life would be completely changed, I wouldn't have believed them. After all, I had worked for the same company for nearly 15 years. 15 years. That's a long time. I wasn't the newest employee. I wasn't struggling at my job. I wasn't worried about being let go. In fact, I felt secure, comfortable, maybe a little too comfortable. The company had become a major part of my life. I knew the people. I knew the systems. I knew exactly what each day would look like. And for a single mother raising 2 children, that stability meant everything. My paycheck covered almost every part of our lives. The mortgage, the groceries, the utilities, school expenses, car payments, unexpected emergencies. There wasn't much extra, but we made it work. Every month required careful planning, careful budgeting, careful decisions. There wasn't room for major surprises. Then, shortly after lunch, an email appeared in everyone's inbox. Mandatory company meeting. Attendance required. Immediately. The message felt strange. The entire office seemed to sense it. People stopped talking. Conversations became whispers. Nobody knew exactly what was happening, but everyone felt it. Something wasn't right. A few minutes later, hundreds of employees filled a large conference room. The atmosphere felt heavy, uncomfortable. Then the announcement came. The company was restructuring. Significant layoffs were necessary. Positions would be eliminated immediately. As the executive spoke, my stomach dropped. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. My heart started racing. Within an hour, employees began receiving notifications. One by one, department by department, name after name. I kept hoping my name wouldn't appear. Then it did, just like that. 15 years ended in a single conversation, a short meeting, a folder of information, a handshake, and suddenly I was carrying a box of personal belongings to my car. I sat behind the steering wheel for a long time, unable to start the engine, unable to think clearly. The shock was overwhelming. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Mostly, I was scared, terrified, actually, because unlike many of my coworkers, I wasn't supporting only myself. I had 2 children depending on me. 2 children who assumed everything was okay. 2 children who trusted me to keep life stable. And in that moment, I had no idea how I was going to do that. The drive home felt surreal. I kept replaying the day in my mind, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand how something so stable could disappear so quickly. When I walked through the front door, I forced a smile. The kids didn't know anything yet. They greeted me like they always did, talking about school, homework, friends, normal things. I listened, nodded, smiled, but inside, fear was growing. That evening, after they went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table. Bills were spread out in front of me. Mortgage statements, utility payments, monthly expenses, numbers that suddenly looked much larger than they had the day before. For the first time in years, I felt truly uncertain about the future. The questions came quickly. How long would my savings last? What if I couldn't find another job? What if I lost the house? What if I couldn't provide for my children? The more I thought about it, the worse it became. Eventually, tears filled my eyes. Not because I was weak, because I was exhausted. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. For years, I had carried everything on my shoulders. Now it felt as though the ground beneath me had disappeared. That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat quietly in the dark living room. The house was silent. For the first time in a very long time, I prayed honestly, not the quick prayers I usually whispered before bed. An honest prayer, a desperate prayer, the kind that comes when you don't know what else to do. I asked God how I was supposed to move forward, how I was supposed to protect my family, how I was supposed to keep going when I couldn't see a path ahead. No dramatic answer came. No miracle happened. Just silence. At least, that's what I thought at the time. The next few weeks were some of the hardest weeks of my life. Applications, interviews, resumes, phone calls, rejections, waiting, more waiting. Every day seemed filled with uncertainty, and every night seemed filled with worry. Then, one afternoon, after another disappointing interview, I stopped at a small community center near my neighborhood. I wasn't even sure why. I just needed a place to sit for a few minutes and clear my head. I had no idea that a simple conversation there would become the beginning of everything changing. The community center wasn't part of my plan that day. Honestly, I almost drove past it. I had just finished another interview, another polite conversation, another promise that someone would be in touch. By that point, I had heard those words enough times to know they didn't mean much. I was tired, discouraged, and running low on hope. So when I noticed the small community center near the park, I pulled into the parking lot without really thinking about it. I walked inside and found a quiet area with a few tables and chairs. My plan was simple. Sit down, take a breath, clear my head, then go home, and keep pretending everything was okay. Instead, I ended up sitting across from a woman named Carol. She appeared to be in her late 60s, friendly, warm, the kind of person who immediately makes you feel comfortable. At first, we exchanged only small talk. The weather, the neighborhood, the coffee, nothing important. Then she asked a simple question. Rough day? For some reason, that question broke through the wall I had been carrying. Maybe because I was exhausted. Maybe because I needed someone to talk to. Maybe because God knew exactly what I needed. Whatever the reason, I found myself telling her everything. The layoff, the fear, the mortgage, the children, the uncertainty. Carol listened quietly, never interrupting, never offering quick solutions. When I finished, she smiled gently. Then she told me something surprising. More than 20 years earlier, she had gone through almost the exact same experience. A sudden layoff, financial uncertainty, sleepless nights, fear about the future. At the time, she had been convinced her life was falling apart. Instead, She said it became the beginning of a chapter she never could have imagined. She explained that losing her job forced her to discover strengths she didn't know she possessed. It pushed her toward opportunities she never would have pursued. And although the journey had been difficult, it ultimately led her to a life she loved. Then she said something that stayed with me. Sometimes we think we're losing our future when we're actually being redirected toward it. I sat quietly because I had spent weeks viewing the layoff as the end of my security, the end of my plans, the end of stability. I had never considered the possibility that it might be the beginning of something else. Before we left, Carol encouraged me to keep moving forward one day at a time, not 1 month at a time, not 1 year at a time, one day, one step, one decision, one opportunity. At first, her advice seemed almost too simple, but over the following weeks, I started living that way. Instead of worrying about every possible outcome, I focused on what I could do today. Send another application, make another phone call, learn a new skill, attend another networking event. Keep moving. Slowly, something began changing. Not my circumstances, my perspective. The fear didn't disappear overnight, but it stopped controlling every thought. The uncertainty didn't vanish, but it no longer felt impossible. Then something unexpected happened. During one of my networking events, I met a woman who worked for a growing nonprofit organization. We started talking. One conversation led to another. A few weeks later, she contacted me about a position that had recently become available. The role wasn't something I would have considered before. In fact, I almost didn't apply. It paid slightly less at first. It was in a completely different field, and it required learning new skills. But something about it felt right. So I applied. Weeks later, I was offered the job. The position allowed me to use many of the same strengths I had developed throughout my career. But it also offered something I hadn't expected: purpose, flexibility, meaningful work, and more time with my children. The transition wasn't easy. There were sacrifices, adjustments, moments of doubt. But gradually, our family found stability again. The mortgage got paid. The bills got covered. Life moved forward. More importantly, I began noticing something I had missed before. For years, my identity had become tied to one job, one company, one paycheck. When that disappeared, I felt lost because I believed my security had disappeared with it. But over time, I learned that my security was never supposed to be found in a job, or a title, or a company. It was found in something much deeper: my faith, my resilience, the people who loved me, and the God who remained faithful even when I couldn't see what was ahead. Looking back now, I don't believe God showed up through a sudden financial miracle. I believe He showed up through a conversation at a community center, through a woman who shared her story, through opportunities that appeared one step at a time, and through the realization that losing one path doesn't mean you've lost your future. Today, I still remember that Tuesday, the fear, the uncertainty, the tears, but I also remember what came afterward: the growth, the lessons, the unexpected blessings, and the truth I discovered in the middle of one of the hardest seasons of my life. Sometimes the chapters we would never choose become the chapters that change us the most. And sometimes God is already preparing the next door while we're still grieving the one that just closed.
If this story touched your heart, comment below. God is still making a way. Maybe you're facing uncertainty right now. A job loss, a financial struggle, a closed door, a future that feels unclear. If so, remember this: just because you can't see the path doesn't mean God isn't leading you. Just because one door closed doesn't mean another won't open. And just because today feels difficult doesn't mean tomorrow won't bring new opportunities. Keep taking the next step. Keep showing up. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Because God often works in ways we don't understand until much later. If this story encouraged you, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to God Showed Up Stories, share this story with someone who may need encouragement. Thank you for spending this time with us. And always remember, God always shows up right on time.